grease had a way of burrowing through all anti-stick barriers and burning itself onto pans. No matter how much spray stuff I used or how many nights the pans soaked, I always ended up scrubbing hard enough to work up a sweat. It wasn't the upper body workout that I objected to. Scrubbing pans just wasn't how I liked to get one. I glared at the pan. Stubborn bits of charred grease clung to the corners and mocked me, daring me to ruin my fingernails scraping at it. Fingernails it was then. They'd grow back. Glass rattled as Jaren yanked open the fridge door. He guzzled huge mouthfuls of apple juice, the excess dripping down his throat onto his bare chest and onward to the hem of his sweatpants. If one more woman told me how hot he was, I'd bite her. My brother's good looks and charming smile got him out of everything, including his most recent selfish screw-up. He should have been up hours earlier to deposit his paycheck. Instead, he had cashed it after work and headed off to the local bar. Round after round with some cousins and local boys, then a case for the road, and driven unwisely out to our back pasture and shot bottles off the fence until they had run out of bullets. Now there was $2.12 to run the house until his next payday. And once again, Dad had just shrugged it off. The misguided antics of a young male, my father had explained, and assured me again that Jaren would mature like a fine wine. Jaren could go drink the grocery money, but I wasn't allowed to know the names of potential suitors. My temper stretched tight. "What the hell are we supposed to do until your next payday, Jaren?" It wasn't like he and our father wouldn't expect 3 hot meals a day. He shrugged and returned the apple juice to the shelf. "Figure it out." "Figure it out? There isn't any legal accounting that's going to turn $2 into 2 weeks of groceries." Jaren slammed the fridge door shut. "Lay off, Winter. Some of us were out late." "You knew you needed to deposit that check, not drink it." "Yeah, and maybe you'd find your mate and get some friends if you didn't have that stick in your butt. Stop being a nag." "That's a cheap shot." He knew I was trapped on our remote spread for weeks on end. The only times I left were to go to our tiny town for errands, or to travel with our father to be paraded about like a prize cow at a county fair. Once my high school friends and cousins had moved away, I had been alone. Belly-crawling jerk to rub my snout in it. "It's my paycheck, Winter, and if I want to drink it, I will." Jaren's glare was an imitation of our father's, and a damn convincing one at that. He might have mastered the mannerisms of an alpha, but he still lacked the presence. Jaren seemed to think he'd be the SilverPaw Alpha one day. Pedigree counted for something, but it was as much about merit as lineage. The rest of the SilverPaw leadership wouldn't suffer Jaren's self-entitled attitude for long. At 4 years older than me, Jaren wasn't exactly setting a blazing pace up that maturity curve. He better get around to becoming a fine wine sometime soon. I bristled. "You know that's not how it works. You want to eat, don't you?" There was some food in our deep freeze, but enough for a few days, not weeks. Even when he turned over his paycheck like he should, there was barely enough to get by, not replenish stores. I might be able to get some rabbits, maybe a tiny deer, but the snow was already here, and the lean season started. Anything bigger would mean a call to our relatives an hour away to come hunt with me, and as soon as my father found out, he'd tell me to stop being lazy and bring in dinner on my own. Jaren couldn't keep doing this. It wasn't how an alpha acted. An alpha put the good of the pack before his own. An alpha went hungry before anyone else did.
"So go tattle." "Oh, wait, you already have."
He waved his fingers at me over his shoulder and disappeared down the hallway. It wasn't about tattling. It was about pack, family, and responsibilities. Jaren's bread didn't get buttered on both sides. If he wanted to keep his paycheck to himself, then he needed to move out and pay his pack tribute like every other wolf. I turned my attention back to my pans and growled at the greasy water. If they had let me get a job, I would have, and Jaren could have done the cooking and cleaning. I would have gone to college, studied, had a career, maybe trade school. Welding was a family tradition. In a few things our father was progressive, but in most others he was entrenched in tradition and the old ways. That meant